The diner door slammed open with a force that shook the room. A little girl stumbled inside, barefoot, her yellow dress torn, her small face streaked with dirt. Her breaths came in ragged gasps, her eyes wide with a terror no child should ever know. "Please, someone, he's coming," she cried, her voice breaking through the quiet lunch hour. Every head turned. Every movement stopped. And in that instant, the bikers in the corner knew something very, very wrong was happening. The lunch rush had just ended, leaving the roadside diner quiet except for 5 remaining patrons. Behind the counter, Betty methodically wiped down the tables, unaware of the storm that had just entered. In a corner booth sat 3 bikers, members of the Iron Riders MC. Their leather vests marked them as road-hardened, experienced, and unafraid. At the head of the group was Hawk, the leader, weathered by decades on the open highway, eyes sharp, calm, but always watching. Beside him sat Jonesy, massive, a mountain of a man with a gray beard that reached his chest, silent strength embodied. The third, Cruz, younger but no less imposing, bore scars from a motorcycle wreck that had nearly ended his career. All eyes turned to the little girl who had just stumbled in, her gaze finally landing on the bikers. Something shifted in her expression, a recognition, a hope, a silent plea for protection. In that small diner, a quiet tension settled. Everyone waited, unsure what would happen next. The little girl's eyes darted around the room, landing finally on the bikers. Her small voice trembled as she whispered, then cried louder, "Please, someone, he's coming." Every patron in the diner froze. The truckers shifted uneasily in their seats. Betty paused mid-step, a rag in her hands. Hawk's eyes narrowed slightly, the calm in his face steadying the storm of panic in the room. He stood slowly, chair scraping against the floor, a quiet force that demanded attention. "Who's coming?" His voice was low, steady, every syllable deliberate, carrying the authority of someone used to being trusted in moments of crisis. The girl swallowed hard, tears welling in her eyes. "Mr. Garrett," he said nobody would believe me. That I was making things up. For a moment, the diner was silent, heavy with tension. The little girl's fear hung in the air, impossible to ignore. And in that silence, everyone understood, the danger wasn't imaginary. It was real, and it was coming for her. The diner door opened again. A man stepped in, calm, controlled, every movement precise. His khakis and polo shirt gave the impression of respectability, a clean-cut appearance that masked the threat he carried. His smile was practiced, apologetic, polite, but there was something in it that didn't reach his eyes. Salt and pepper hair perfectly styled, wedding ring catching the fluorescent light, he moved with the confidence of someone used to being trusted. "There you are, Emma," he said smoothly, relief coating his words. "Sweetheart, you had me so worried." The little girl pressed herself against the counter, shaking her head. "No, no, no," she whispered. His eyes scanned the room briefly before resting on Betty. "I'm so sorry for the disturbance. My daughter gets confused sometimes. She has episodes." Hawk's presence seemed to expand without him moving. Calm, measured, unshakable. The tension in the room was a tangible thing. But Emma's voice cut through it, small but sharp, "He's lying." In that moment, the polite, controlled mask of the man cracked, just for a fraction of a second, but it was enough. Enough to tell everyone watching that the danger he posed was very real. Emma's voice shook, but she spoke faster now, desperate to be heard. "He's been watching me all year, since my parents started working late. He offers to drive kids home, takes the ones nobody's watching." Her small hands trembled as she clenched them together. "He took Sarah Martinez 3 weeks ago. She didn't come back to school, but I saw her backpack in his car." The room went colder, the weight of her words settling over everyone. Garrett's practiced calm faltered for the briefest of moments, a shadow of calculation passing across his face, but the mask snapped back immediately. "This is ridiculous," he said, voice sharp. "You're getting yourself into serious trouble with these accusations." Cruz, blocking the doorway, didn't speak, but the intensity in his stance said more than words could. Jonas's massive frame shifted, voice like gravel. Seems like the kid's pretty specific for someone who's just confused. Emma's whisper cut through again. Storage unit, number 42. I saw the key. It fell out during art class. I memorized it. Silence followed. The confession hung in the air like smoke, impossible to ignore. The danger was no longer a story, it was real, tangible, and unfolding in front of everyone. The air in the diner shifted. Calm, deliberate, but impossible to ignore. Cruz moved first, stepping to block the doorway, not aggressive, just present, a living barrier. Jonesy rose, his massive frame filling the space, silent but impossible to overlook. Hawk leaned forward slightly, eyes locking onto Garrett, voice low and steady. We need to verify this. Nobody leaves until we know the truth. Garrett's polite mask slipped again, a flicker of anger passing through his eyes. You have no right, this is harassment. I could have you all arrested. Hawk didn't flinch. His presence alone was enough to hold the tension in the room. Don't need them to believe me, he said quietly, voice calm but resolute. Need them to believe her. And need them to look close enough to find what you've been hiding. The little girl, Emma, felt a flicker of hope. For the first time, she realized someone was truly listening, someone would stand between her and the danger she'd been facing alone. Betty's hand shook slightly as she picked up the phone, dialing the school's number. Hello? Yes. I need Principal Davies, please. It's urgent. It's about one of your students, Emma. Emma's voice was barely audible, but it carried weight now, steady and clear. She knows me. She knows I don't lie. On the other end, Principal Davies' voice was tense, surprised. Emma is missing, since this morning? We've been trying to reach her parents, but no one could get through. The room went dead silent. The little girl's story was being confirmed. The danger she had described, the one Garrett tried to dismiss, was real. Hawk's voice remained calm, but firm. Tell the police. Tell them we have Emma. She's safe. Hurry. Every eye in the diner shifted toward the bikers, now clearly the protectors standing between a child and a predator. For the first time, Emma could breathe a little easier. The adults who had ignored her warnings before were now listening and believing. Garrett suddenly lunged, trying to grab Emma. Time seemed to slow as Cruz was there in an instant, catching her before she fell. Jonesy moved next, his massive arm sweeping across Garrett, knocking him hard to the floor. The impact rattled the diner, glass trembling in its frames. Hawk was on him immediately, knee pressing Garrett down, hands gripping his arms firmly but controlled. Don't move, Hawk said, calm, steady. No anger, just certainty. Garrett thrashed, shouted, his voice rising with fury. This is assault. I'll sue all of you. You have no right. Jonas's gravelly voice cut through the chaos. You ain't going nowhere. The little girl, Emma, watched frozen, her heart pounding, but not with fear this time. Relief began to replace it. In that moment, the bikers weren't just bystanders, they were shields, a wall of protection between her and the man who had terrorized her life. Within minutes, the wail of sirens grew louder, flashing lights filling the diner windows. Police cars pulled up in a storm of authority, officers pouring into the room with precise urgency. Garrett went rigid as detectives quickly assessed the situation, handcuffs ready, questions already forming. Hawk, Jonesy, and Cruz remained close to Emma, silent but protective. They didn't speak for her, didn't interfere with the law, they simply stood as a wall between a terrified child and the world that had failed to protect her. Emma finally let herself breathe. The police confirmed she was safe, Garrett was restrained, and the truth she had fought to be heard was undeniable. Relief washed over the diner like sunlight breaking through clouds. Emma's small frame shivered, not with fear, but with the release of months of terror finally confronted. In that moment, the bikers had done what needed to be done, not for glory, not for recognition, but because standing between the vulnerable and danger was simply what they did. An hour later, police arrived at the storage facility Garrett had used. The lock on Unit 42 was broken, and what they found inside made everyone gasp. It wasn't just evidence of Emma's ordeal, it was proof of a much larger crime. Documentation of other children, names, dates, locations, a network stretching beyond one town, beyond one predator. And then, in a corner, they found Sarah Martinez. Alive, dehydrated, frightened, but breathing. Emma's insistence, her courage in speaking up, had saved her. The scope of what had been uncovered was staggering. The news vans would arrive by sunset, the story unfolding far beyond the diner, far beyond the small town that had witnessed Emma's bravery. Through it all, Hawk, Jonesy, and Cruz stayed nearby, silent, steady, witnesses to the truth, and to the power of one small girl who refused to stay silent. By the time Emma's parents arrived, the sun was dipping low, painting the diner parking lot in warm hues. Her mother collapsed to her knees, clutching Emma tightly, as if she would never let go. Her father stood behind them, tears streaming silently down his face, unable to speak the words that burned in his heart. Emma pulled back just enough to point at the bikers. "They saved me. They didn't let him take me." Hawk stepped forward, hand extended. "Your daughter saved herself," he said simply. "She spoke up when it mattered most. We just stood in the way." Her mother's hands rested on the biker's shoulders. "You stood when you could have looked away. You stood when it would have been easier to ignore." Jonesy shifted uncomfortably, Cruz gave a small, proud smile, and Hawk nodded. The road had brought them here. They had done what was right. For Emma, the world suddenly felt safer, warmer, full of possibility. She had found protectors in unexpected places, and her courage had changed everything. Months later, Hawk received a letter in the mail. The handwriting was careful, deliberate. Inside, a photograph, Emma standing between her parents at a community event, holding a medal for courage from her school. A note tucked behind it read, "Dear Hawk, Jonesy, and Cruz. Because of what happened, the school district investigated the whole area. They found 2 more predators like Mr. Garrett. They're all going to prison. Detective Morrison said I helped save 23 kids by speaking up. My parents got me a dog, Harley. Mom said I could pick any name I wanted. Thank you for standing when you could have sat. Thank you for listening when you could have ignored me. Thank you for believing me when he said nobody would. I'm going to be brave every day, just like you taught me. Your friend, Emma. P.S. I'm learning to ride a bicycle. Maybe someday I'll get a motorcycle too." Hawk read the letter twice, passing it to Jonesy and Cruz. They sat in their usual booth at a different diner, on a different stretch of endless highway. Coffee in hand, motorcycles outside, the road ahead waiting. Some things never changed, the code of the road, the loyalty, the willingness to stand when others would not. Emma had reminded them what truly mattered. Courage could come from the smallest heart, heroes could come in any form, and sometimes the right choice was simply to refuse to look away. The engines roared to life. 3 riders moved into the fading sunlight, carrying proof that heroism is timeless, relentless, and sometimes found in the most unexpected places. The road had no end. But every mile mattered. Every moment of presence, of awareness, of courage. Emma had shown them, and the world, what true bravery looked like. If this story reminded you to trust your instincts, to speak up when something feels wrong, and to never underestimate the power of paying attention, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Bikers Beat. Courage comes in all forms, and sometimes the smallest voice can make the biggest impact. Tell us in the comments, have you ever noticed something important that others missed? Your story might inspire someone else to act. Remember, heroes come in all sizes, and bravery is often about simply refusing to look away. Thank you for watching.